Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to another Journey of Sunday with me, Andrew Carruthers from The Journeyist. It's a lot of journeys, it's a lot of Sundays, but hey, you're here, right? Today's episode 6, and we are going to talk about whether the Spirit lives inside of us, or if it's something that we perceive to be more outside of us. I think this is a really important topic, and it's actually come up quite a bit in the different discussions that we've had just through the comments of the previous episodes. The reason I feel this is so important to us is that it really shapes the way that we relate to that sense of spirit. It's a very different relationship if we see it as something that lives kind of distant and outside of us, or if it's something that is really deep inside of us. So I'll start off with the viewpoint that kind of made the most sense to me. It was actually introduced to me in my philosophy class back in high school. And I can't remember the philosopher's name that we were studying, and I honestly haven't been able to find it again in research either. So I'm just going to explain it, and hopefully it makes sense. So the concept that the philosopher shared, and it's something that I have seen other places as well, is that it's almost like this, like it's a hand. So the entire hand is this kind of universal energy, the spirit, whatever you'd like to call it, and then we are this, kind of the fingers, the little pieces that come down off of that. And when I was first introduced to this concept, it made a lot of sense to me because I had already felt like I was a piece of a bigger whole. And it still makes sense to me because I still sense my individuality within spirituality, but I feel such a strong connection to the whole. The recent one that presented itself was when I was reading the book of Bodhidharma. And in that book, Bodhidharma continually repeats, I am the Buddha is me. This takes on a little bit different presence to me than the explanation of, okay, here's the whole, and then we have the extensions coming down from it. His point is, it's you, it's me, it's everyone around us. That is the spirit. It's an interesting thing, and it's been challenging to me to kind of grasp it because, like I said, I've always had this sense that I'm still this sort of individual spirit that's connected to the whole. But at the same time, the more that I think about that, just that if we consider that we are just all the whole, it's kind of a different perception of our connection. And then there's the belief systems that, of course, carry more of a perception that we are maybe a soul, a part of the spirit, but the spirit is an actual entity or a god or a being of some sort. And within each of those traditions, it's interesting how differently each tradition explains how we are connected to that greater source. Because I've definitely heard things like, God is inside of me, it's a part of me. I've also heard it to be much more external too, where really we're placing that main spiritual source completely outside of our individual presence. Now the great thing is again, we all get to make our own decision of how we connect to the spirit and what our belief systems are around our connection to spirit. I try to be a little careful about interjecting too much opinion in these because I don't want to necessarily influence perception, but I will actually interject just a little bit of opinion here because I think that if we feel as if we are not directly connected or we're directly a part of that spirit, it can feel a little lonely, it can feel separated. And I think it takes us away from what I think is so incredibly important, especially right now in our world, is that we feel this sense that the person standing next to me, I have a spiritual connection to that person. And hopefully it builds a sense of compassion and patience with each other, just understanding that they're just another human going through the human experience that happens to have a really pure soul too. Like I mentioned, I think that this is an important thing for us to discuss because if we want to gain a deeper sense of relationship with our spirituality, I think we have to get clear on where does that spirit live? Is it inside of us? Is it something out there that we look out to? And if so, what is our connection to it? Out of any of our topics so far, I'm super excited to hear your responses to this because I don't know that it gets discussed super often. I'm super excited to hear what you have to say. If you have someone out there that you think would enjoy this conversation, please tag them and let them know that we're having these discussions on Sundays, and actually throughout the week, because you guys continue to respond throughout the week. But I'd really love to grow the diversity and the different voices that we hear, because I think that's how we're going to learn from each other. Just a little heads up, I will be starting a group coaching project pretty soon, within the next month, that will also pick up a little bit of this Journey of Sunday project, and it's going to be called The Return to Essentials. So until next week, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this subject. I'll see you next week on the Journey of Sunday.